Attention, your paradigm is about to shift at the intersection of fact and reason. You're entering Kingston Country.
I'm Dan Kingston, and you're listening to the Dan Kingston Podcast.
And in fact, by 2016, you were so concerned about corruption questions related to Burisma that when there was an effort by Burisma to sponsor an essay contest with USAID, you asked USAID to stop it.
That's correct.
And you testified that it was because, quote, Burisma had a poor reputation in the business and that you didn't think it was appropriate for the U.S. government to be co-sponsoring something with a company that had a bad reputation. Correct? You are also aware, and you testified today, that Hunter Biden served on the board of Burisma.
Correct.
And you also testified that you were indeed concerned about the appearance of conflict of interest.
That's correct.
And broadly, this is very important, you testified in your deposition that when the State Department evaluates foreign assistance, it is appropriate for them to look at levels of corruption in countries.
That's correct.
That's Congresswoman Elise Stefanik, and there she is questioning George P. Kent, a senior State Department official in charge of Ukraine policy. You know, I'm thinking, is a podcast on today's testimony even helpful? You know, the testimony by Taylor and Kent, because by now you've heard a lot of analysis. By the time you've downloaded and listened to this podcast, you've heard it on the nightly news. Maybe you saw the real thing live, you know, on CNN and Fox. Everybody was covering it. And so you already have a informed opinion on this kind of thing. And it's boring as hell, let's face it. It's like when a head of state dies and there's nonstop coverage on the cable news. All it is nonstop. Oh, you know, he's such a good person. He lived such a good life. He was such a noble person. You know, like the McCain funeral, for instance, you know, the never ending parade. Look, you know, let's salute our heroes. Fine. But there's news of the day. And at a certain point, it becomes like endless, nonstop coverage of something which is, yes, important. I get it. It's important. Look, I'm not one to say, oh, this is a perfect phone call. And before that was the official talking point, by the way. You know, the official talking point is it's not perfect, but it's not impeachable, right? Before that was the official talking point. It just made common sense. I said right out there, look, the president, obviously this is not ideal. It's not ideal. I don't care how you want to spin it. Maybe if you are in the spotlight 100% and you have to be there, you have to spin it and you have to say, you know, it's perfect. It's perfect. It doesn't look perfect. Okay. But there's something larger at stake, which is there's corruption on top of corruption. And the American people are saying, wait a minute, we already know that a politician is going to act in their own self-interest, and especially Trump. So that's kind of factored into it. It's kind of baked into it. Right. And on top of that, you have a attempt, for whatever reason, to make this look so much worse than it really is. You hear, you know, extortion and bribery and really horrible accusations getting worse and worse and worse, when the truth is that this company, Burisma, had a history of corruption. Admittedly, I just played you the clip by George P. Kent saying correct, that is correct, to Congresswoman Elise Stefanik, who was saying, yes, they had a history of corruption. He was worried about that. And also the appearance of how it looked having the vice president's son, Hunter Biden, on the board of that company. Obviously, that doesn't look good. And why is it going to look bad? Because, you know, where there's smoke, there's fire on either side of the aisle, right? And the difference is that Donald J. Trump was elected president. It seems to be that everyone forgets that he was elected president of the United States. So he represents everyone who voted for him. It's up to them to decide if he's betraying or, you know, is he self-serving? That's not up for the Democrats and the far left to decide. They didn't vote for him anyway. It's up to the people who support Donald Trump, is what I would argue, to say, Is he acting in our self-interest? And the truth is that by looking into corruption in Ukraine, that's in America's self-interest. And by looking into Joe Biden's son's corruption, potentially Joe Biden's corruption himself, that is also in the self-interest of the millions of people who voted for Donald J. Trump. So is it impeachable? I don't think so. Is it ugly? Yes. But why would they turn on him? Why are the Republicans going to turn on him in the Senate? You know, the only reason why they say, oh, are they going to turn? Are they going to turn on the president? Because they want you to keep tuning in and wondering. And these people, isn't it sick? People sitting on the edge of their seats watching this like it's a movie, and they're happy about it. They're so happy about it. Pelosi has to keep saying, this is somber. This is a somber event. But, you know, they're so giddy on the inside, and they have their popcorn and the guacamole and chips. It's like the Super Bowl. They are so excited about this. It's sick watching this. Meanwhile, people like you and me, we're bored as hell, can't stand another second of it. And the fact that there's nothing being talked about besides the impeachment, right? We have a H-1B visa situation where you have temporary foreign workers destroying the American middle class. That's a big problem. You have the Dreamer situation. Thousands are using their Dreamer DACA status in order to stay in this country after having committed felonies, some as bad as rape and murder, and they're being allowed to stay because of DACA. So that needs to be reformed, and the Supreme Court is going to come down on that soon. But there's other issues happening in the world. Why did Syria take everybody by surprise? Because we're talking about impeachment nonstop. And wouldn't it be embarrassing if the Democrats in the House don't have the votes? After all this, the entire parade, how embarrassing would that be? They don't have the votes in the House to impeach. And at the end of it, they have to say, well, you know, it's too close to the election. We'll lay it out for the voters to decide. That's what they'll say. You know, if Pelosi knows she doesn't have the votes, she's not going to look like a fool. I mean, that would be one hell of a show if they actually did the vote and it turned out they didn't have it. But, you know, let's say some Democrats say, you know, Nancy, it's just, we didn't get it. I can't do this. It's going to make me, you know, it's going to kill me. And so she'll say, oh, okay. Okay, well, we're not going to have a vote. We laid it all out there, and I'll explain it's too close to the election, but we're going to let the American people decide, right? Now, if Trump wins re-election, they'll just start it up. You know, they'll start it up again, and the process will continue. The truth is that Trump will likely win by a landslide just from the way the Democrats have moved to the socialist squad policy. You see, it's a weird thing how politics works. If the squad had never came to be, all that momentum likely would have been building up into 2020. But because we have midterms, some of that, you know, that pressure cooker is released, and it backfired because the American people said, whoa, yeah, okay, Trump does some stuff that's embarrassing from time to time, but at least the economy is good. I mean, at least we're out of major war. At least he's not trying to completely transform our financial system, which is, you know, done okay. Well, I mean, we're doing okay. Now, you can say the elite control over, you know, corporations, the globalist mentality, the one world kind of thinking. And it is true. The elites have taken control. And they've taken control on both sides of the aisle. That's why I say neo-libcon, because it's no longer Republican and Democrat. It mostly is the elites, their globalist mentality in getting cheap labor, in getting more profit. They say, oh, here, I'll give you a cheaper iPhone. But meanwhile, they give the jobs over to the foreign workers. I don't know if you've heard about the H-1B visa situation, but it is decimating the American middle class in tech centers. You see it. You see hundreds of thousands. I mean, there's a cap. So the cap is 65,000, and then there's an advanced degree exemption of 20,000. Then there's thousands more that can come from different countries that we have independent trade deals with. So by the end of the day, you're looking at, almost 100,000 a year coming in, and these are temporary foreign workers, and they're taking really good jobs. Okay, these aren't the, you hear, these are jobs that no Americans will take. No Americans will pick the field. I mean, yeah, look, no American's going to pick the field for $1 an hour as an indentured servant. That's true. But anyway, that's a different story. We're talking about high-tech jobs. These are good engineering jobs. But the tech companies say, that we don't have enough workers that are trained in America. So we have to go and hire these foreign temporary workers and bring them here. But they can only stay for 3 years. They can extend it. Yeah, they can extend it to 6. But then something has to happen. Usually they end up going back to their country. If not, they stay. But that's still taken a great job that would have belonged to an American who is a permanent citizen. Shouldn't the politicians be helping train Americans for these jobs? The future is automation, artificial intelligence, software, engineering, all this stuff. It's no surprise. Why are we so late in this? Why aren't we training people in the underserved communities? Hell, why aren't we training people in all the communities in this country to do those jobs? That's where the government should come in and say, hey, there's a shortage of Americans in this need. Okay, let's help train them. Instead of just, giving permission to hire unlimited immigrants, foreign temporary workers, H-1Bs from mostly India. Also, I don't want to single out any one country. The truth is that it's great giving opportunities. Okay. And I'm not a xenophobe. I'm fine. I'm fine with the melting pot. But we don't have a melting pot anymore. If you're only here for 3 years or 6 years max, how are you going to melt? And then you're going to go home? You didn't melt. That's not a melting pot. That's bringing in a workforce of temporary foreign workers that aren't Americans, that if they do wish to become Americans, great, but that's not what this program is set up to do. This is supposed to be a temporary program, by the way. But there was no situation, no apparatus set up to train Americans for these jobs, and that's what the big tech wants. Because they like these indentured servants. That's what they are. They're indentured servants. If you're coming from India or a country where it's, a bad situation, you're coming to America, you're grateful to your employer. And by the way, if they fire you, you have to go back. So of course, you're basically an indentured servant in this situation. It's not fair to you. And it's not fair to the American tech worker who, by the way, there isn't a shortage of these jobs. It's what they're saying, but not really. The truth is that there's plenty. They cost a little bit more than the cheapo engineer from India with a fake education. Yeah, not all of them. Not all of them, but a lot of them are exaggerated at best. I mean, for instance, in the Mercury News, they cover a story on H-1Bs. It's a San Jose newspaper, okay? And the most prolific H-1B lawyer, according to the Mercury News, is Melanie Bradshaw of EY Law. This is ties to consulting company Ernst & Young. Ernst & Young, you've probably heard of them. I don't know. If you're in the consulting world, you've heard of Ernst & Young. But just as one attorney, Melanie Bradshaw, she's filed over 57,000 new worker labor department applications alone. Just her. So you can imagine these things are just like every minute they're sending out a new one, I guess. I don't know how one person can file that many. I don't know how. And there's exemptions, and there's this, and there's that. So they end up coming here, and a lot of them are low wage under the guise of high specialty. Because really what they're supposed to be is a specialty occupation. It's allowing temporary work at an employer in a specialty occupation. But the big tech, they're just working with these politicians on the right and the left. This is a Republican and Democrat thing. They both support the H-1Bs largely, to a large extent, as a neolibcons mostly that support this kind of thing. So anyway, what's the solution? Let's train Americans to get those jobs. So anyway, that's something to me far more interesting to talk about. I hope you enjoy the podcast. If you enjoy this podcast, would you do me a favor and do yourself a favor too, so this thing can keep growing? And you're a part of it, right? You should call in, be a part of it. Let me know what you think. And tell a friend, tell a family member, retweet or email or Facebook or something. I don't know, because we need to grow this damn thing. If every one of you listening were to tell one other person, we would spread like a wildfire. That's a bad example to use given I'm based in California. I'm actually based in San Francisco. Believe it or not, San Francisco. I know. Grew up in Berkeley. And this is the situation. I was very far left. Now I am a completely independent moderate, and I call balls and strikes. I like that phrase because I did play varsity baseball. I actually wear a baseball glove when I talk to you. I don't know. I just feel like it gets me in a winning mindset. You know that feeling when you're winning, when you're kicking ass, and you got to harness that feeling, whatever trick you can to harness that. So when I talk on the microphone to you, to the podcast, I was thinking, what if I wear a baseball glove? That could be kind of cool, and I can do that. I'm playing baseball right here. So it's an American game, right? It's interesting hearing Trump booed in Washington, D.C. at the baseball game, and then he's cheered in Alabama. So you can tell it just is very culturally specific, and the Electoral College is such a genius thing. Why are the Democrats and the far left just destroying the Constitution left and right? They hate the First Amendment. They hate the Second Amendment. They want to get rid of the, Electoral College. They're fine with the NSA, search and seizure, unreasonable search and seizure. Oh, they're fine. Their NSA is coming to our rescue. So, I mean, this is one of the reasons why if you're a logical person that loves this country and, you're blessed with enough years, you're just going to be moved into a conservative direction. And I call it independent. I'm right in the middle. I don't like to say I'm far right. Of course, if you're a socialist over there and listening to me, maybe you're saying Dan Kingston's a far right wacko, but listen to what I'm saying. I'm talking common sense. I'm not spinning it like everybody else is. I'm just talking to you, and you're listening to me, but also I want you to talk to me too. I want you to call in. You can find a way to contact me on Twitter or on the description of this podcast. You can see that there's a way to leave a voice message, and you can actually contact me directly on Twitter. I have a DM open. Talk to me. We'll get you on this podcast and we'll share your thoughts, because at the end of the day, it's interesting having a conversation with the listeners. I know you would be interested in hearing what other people have to say. For instance, yesterday, I brought up the fact that it feels like nobody ever wins the lottery. But a gentleman actually DM'd me yesterday and said, my uncle won the lottery. It changed our family's life. So go figure. People do win the lottery. ICIG complaint is interesting. I don't know if you heard about this. There's an ICIG complaint, the Intelligence Community Inspector General complaint, alleges the Trump-Ukraine whistleblower may be soliciting illicit donations. This is correct, yeah. The whistleblower that cannot be named, I can't name him. Oh, if I name the whistleblower, you know what will happen? The microphone, it will blow up in my face. And it's all AI, artificial intelligence. If I say the whistleblower's name, not only will I be shadow banned from Twitter and podcast world, Apple, all that, the microphone will actually blow up in my face. And that's the reason why you're not hearing it. Oh yeah, pretty stupid. I hear my wife in my ear She's saying stupid. That's stupid. But this complaint asks the ICIG to look into whether any foreign citizen or agent of a foreign government contributed to his, GoFundMe campaign. And according to the attorney of the gentleman filing this complaint, or gentlewoman, I don't know, man or woman, who knows, it's not about politics for my client. It's whistleblower on whistleblower. So that's interesting, because he's asking to look into whether a foreign citizen or agent of a foreign government contributed to the whistleblower. So can you imagine if the corrupt Ukraine, representatives of that corruption, are donating to the whistleblower? That's what this whistleblower on whistleblower is alleging in the complaint to the ICIG. Michael Atkinson is the Intelligence Community Inspector General, and he was appointed, by the way, by Trump. Interestingly, it came out that allegedly Trump is looking to replace him and remove him, presumably with somebody, I guess, that would be more favorable to this complaint, perhaps. That's my speculation. So look for that. It's not getting much attention. I retweeted it. You didn't seem to care much about it, but again, ICIG complaint alleges Trump Ukraine whistleblower may be soliciting illicit donations, and that's via GoFundMe. I think I've seen that link, so I don't know if it's maybe. I think I thought I saw that soliciting donations on a GoFundMe, and I think it's out there, like in the open. So that violates all kinds of laws if that's happening. You're not allowed to do that, especially if it's like a foreign citizen or agent from Ukraine. That would be really bad.
Kingston Country. You've been listening to the Dan Kingston Podcast.